Joining me now is Dan Ye. He's CEO and co-founder of CollegeNode, an education online platform. Dan, good to see you. Dan, I'm not sure if you can hear me, but we just saw the story out of Mexico. How many Chinese living abroad are considering the return to China? What kind of numbers are we talking about here?
So, for different countries, it's different. For countries such as the United States, you're actually seeing a lot of people that are interested in returning to China because the sheer growth in China's economy. So, for example, the star of Mulan, who goes by the stage name is Liu Yifei, was an American citizen, but she returned to China because the entertainment industry in China is growing leaps and bounds, and she first found fame, in China. And the same thing goes with the biotech sector, with the artificial intelligence sector. Many of the sectors that are growing very quickly in China are attracting a lot of overseas Chinese, as well as, just foreigners in general.
So why do we see this among many second-generation migrants? Yes, as you mentioned, there are economic and business opportunities, but what are some of the other factors driving this move? Are they personal?
Well, obviously it's a lot easier when you speak Chinese, or in many cases you speak some form of Chinese. Most of the second or third generation overseas Chinese are not fluent in Mandarin, but it just takes a few months of brush up before you can actually become, conversational in the language. And the language is definitely a huge leg up compared to just foreigners who work in China. I think a lot of the cultural factors also plays a role in which, I do know people who are not used to the food in China. Whereas the second and third generation Chinese are much less likely to find issues with, eating or living arrangement compared to foreigners living in China.
What about some other parts of this culture? You mentioned food, but what about family, business, working, meeting new people? Does all of that should be taken into consideration as well?
Well, family is definitely a big one. So this actually affects my family a lot because my father was actually I think, third or fourth generation overseas Chinese who returned to China at the age of 12. And there are relatives in China that was able to receive him. So, having roots in China definitely play a role, and having relatives, even though these are distant relatives, that can welcome you in China definitely make the assimilation process much, much easier compared to, otherwise.
Because pre-COVID, I know it's very common for families who live abroad to go back and forth and visit at least once or twice a year the family that is still in China. Do you think this is reflective of what's happening around the world, or other young people taking the jump to their home countries in this reverse trend?
Well, so yes, but you also have to remember the main factor driving this is economic opportunity. So young people tend to go where there is jobs. There's good paying jobs. I would say 10 years ago, you would still see a fairly sizable pay gap between the biotech jobs in the United States and the biotech jobs in Shenzhen, for example. Whereas today, a lot of those pay discrepancy have largely disappeared, meaning that if you graduated from, say, Stanford University and you want to go into a fast-growing tech startup, the Shenzhen job can pay just as much as the ones in Silicon Valley. And for young people, they are much more open to migrating and moving compared to the older generation who already have kids. And that's why we're seeing this trend in which the world is becoming increasingly flat, and young people are taking advantage of those opportunities.
Taking advantage and taking those risks. Dan Ye, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.